the savanna and the instinct. Hello everyone. Tonight we are traveling far, truly far, not just to the age before smartphones or the steam engine or even the wheel. Tonight we are going back 2 million years. No lights, no language, no shoes. You open your eyes on the brink of survival, naked, shivering, and surrounded by sounds that feel wrong. Giant insects hum in the thick air. Branches creak overhead as if something is waiting to fall. You are now Homo habilis, the handyman, a fragile flicker in the early spark of human evolution. And just so you know, you probably won't survive this. So before you get too comfortable, take a moment to like this video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I'm doing here. And while you're at it, tell me in the comments where you are watching from tonight and what time it is where you are. And now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that gentle background hum. And let's quietly drift into today's journey together. You wake up on the beaten earth of the ancient savanna. The air is cooler than you expected, heavy with the scent of wet grass, damp bark, and something sour and sharp that you can't quite place. The world is loud. Bird calls, a distant howl, the chirping of insects, something grunts nearby. You are barefoot and hungry and, oh yes, completely alone. You are small, barely a meter tall. Your arms are long, your body lithe, and your skull lacks the large dome that modern humans boast. But inside, something is buzzing, instinct perhaps, or curiosity. Either way, your first thought is simple: do not die. Everything in this world seems bulky. Trees loom like ancient gods, roots twist like veins in the dirt. Even the grass, thick and tough with morning dew, brushes your knees. When you move, it is tentative and quiet. Every step might snap a twig, and every twig might mean trouble. You don't know it yet, but you've landed somewhere in East Africa, perhaps near the Olduvai Gorge or Lake Turkana, though the names mean nothing to you. It is the cradle, they will say one day, a birthplace, but for you, it is simply a landscape full of teeth, hunger, and cold. Language is not yet there, only sounds. You might grunt or click your tongue or gesture toward a tree with wide eyes. You do not need words to feel fear or hope or that deep pain in your stomach that keeps growing. Nearby, a cluster of low trees offers scant cover. You shuffle toward them, mindful of every dry leaf underfoot. Your hands are thick and capable, though your fingers lack the full dexterity of your distant descendants. Still, they can grasp and climb, and maybe, if you're lucky, carry something with them. That sour smell again, closer now. Something is dead and recent. You do not go explore, not yet, because you can hear something breathing, deeply, heavily, slowly. Predators eat here first. You wait your turn, or you die trying to cut in line. This is no place for mistakes. Every mistake has a shape, a sound, a weight. Sometimes it roars, sometimes it flies. Historians still debate whether Homo habilis hunted small game himself or only scavenged the leftovers of bigger carnivores. But one thing is clear: you are not at the top of the food chain. You have no fire, no shelter, and no tribe to defend you. Not yet. Only the rising sun at your back and the endless stretch of grass ahead. You feel your heart thumping against your ribs, not from excitement, but from awareness. There is no room for boredom here, no time for contemplation. You exist in a world where the only objective is to survive until the next sunrise. And yet, something flickers, a thought, a shape. Perhaps as the sun gleaming on a sharp rock, or the echo of someone else's steps nearby. You are not alone here. Others are watching, waiting, living. You wonder if they feel the same way. That quiet, constant hum of fear mixed with a strange wonder, because everything around you is both beautiful and terrifying. Massive termite mounds, towering like spires. Baboons who scream and tumble in the trees. The rumble of something heavy, perhaps a hippopotamus, moving in the undergrowth. You crouch behind a rock and press your palm into the dust. It already feels warm. You draw a rough line with your finger. It means nothing, but it grounds you somehow. A moment, a mark, a proof that you were here, if only for an instant. A curious fact, your species will be named Homo habilis, the handyman, for your ability to make simple stone tools. But you are not thinking about tools right now. You are thinking about food, shelter, and where the nearest tree is, just in case something roars again. The wind shifts, the smell of death vanishes, replaced by something sweeter. Maybe berries, or maybe it's just your imagination. Either way, your instincts pull you forward, one tentative step after another, past rocks older than memory, past tracks that seem too large to be yours, past bones that still carry teeth marks. This is survival, stripped bare. There is no civilization here, no plans for dinner parties or poetry, just the basic math of survival. Keep moving, be quiet, eat when you can. The sun climbs higher, and with it, the heat comes. Your mouth is dry. You can't help but glance at the sky. Blue, endless, indifferent. You are nothing here, a shadow with a pulse. And yet you are still moving, still trying. Because in this forgotten chapter of human history, that is all that mattered. To move, to breathe, to endure. The raw food misery, unfit teeth. You don't have the teeth for this. That realization hits you somewhere between chewing a fibrous root and realizing it tastes exactly like tree bark soaked in dirt, because that's what it is. Your jaw aches. Your molars, flat, blunted, and already showing signs of wear, are grinding through roots, sinewy meat that won't soften no matter how long you chew. It's food, barely. But hunger doesn't care. Hunger just wants something to fill the hollowness inside you. You are built light, sinewy, small, not because you are young, but because that is the design. Homo habilis was not built for luxury. You are a compromise, smaller brain than your descendants, smaller bodies, but smarter than those who came before you. That makes you special, maybe, but not special enough to avoid hunger. You spot something reddish in the grass, a wild berry perhaps, or a visual trick. You shuffle toward it, eyes scanning for movement. Snakes like berry patches, so do other creatures faster than you. You pluck the berry, sniff it, taste it, spit it out. Too bitter, or maybe poisonous. Who knows? No one is writing survival guides 2 million years ago. It's trial, error, and the occasional tragic slip-up. Historians still debate whether Homo habilis could distinguish edible from toxic food, or if you simply learned by watching others get sick. Either way, you chew cautiously. Everything you put in your mouth carries a risk. And speaking of mouths, yours already hurts. It's not just the tough roots, bark, and unripe fruit. It's your teeth themselves, ground down like sandpaper, failing you long before you hit middle age. You don't brush, you don't floss. You accidentally eat sand every time you chew something pulled from the soil. Tiny rocks grind between your molars with each bite. Your gums bleed, but you keep chewing because the alternative is worse. Fire is not here yet. You've seen its flashes, lightning strikes, maybe igniting dry grass. Once, you watched a tree smolder after a storm. The smoke made you cough, but the warmth, The warmth pulled you closer, and then away as the heat grew too intense. You do not know how to make it. Not yet. That secret lies ahead in your evolutionary story, somewhere beyond you. For now, your food remains raw. That means no roasted roots, no cooked meat, no warmth at night, and definitely no boiled water to kill the parasites, bacteria, or whatever else makes your stomach feel like it's twisting into knots every other sunrise. You bend down to scoop something from the dirt, a grub, fat and pale, twitching. You've eaten worse. You put it between your teeth. It wiggles, then crunches. Rich in protein, they will say one day. Gourmet, even, if deep-fried and sauced. But right now, it is disgusting and exactly what you need. Your hands are working constantly. You are digging, scraping, breaking open seed pods, hoping for something soft inside. You are peeling bark, looking for sap or bugs. No break, no meal plan, just moments of relief between long stretches of nothing. You haven't felt full since you woke up here. Other figures move in the distance, hunched silhouettes. They walk more or less like you. Long arms, quick movements. You watch one of them crush something under a rock and then carefully collect it. Maybe nuts, maybe snails. You move closer, but not too close. You don't trust them, not yet, and they don't trust you. This life does not encourage generosity. If someone has food, they probably won't share. If you get too close, you might get a rock to the head, or worse. You've seen the fights. Not dramatic slow-motion movie shots, just quick flashes of panic, a shriek, a dull thud, then silence. One less mouth competing for the same dry root. It's not all so brutal, though. Sometimes someone drops something or leaves behind a carcass, and if you are quick, if you are quiet, you can grab it. Half a fruit, a cracked egg, a sliver of bone marrow still clinging to the bone. It's little, but it's calories, and calories are everything. The sun climbs higher. The heat settles onto your shoulders like a heavy hand. Sweat stings your eyes. You wipe it away with a forearm crusted with dirt. You cannot afford to stop. Food is the mission, the obsession, the whole point. Every movement, every shuffle, reach, dig, smash is guided by one thing: keep going. A curious fact for the night: Homo habilis may have eaten termites by poking sticks into mounds and licking them off. Not exactly a 5-star meal, but if it moves and doesn't immediately kill you, it's fair game. You spot a termite mound in the distance. It looks like a muddy castle rising out of the grass. You walk toward it, cautiously selecting a long twig along the way. The technique is simple. Poke, wait, sample. You don't know why it works, you just know that it works. The taste is earthy, slightly bitter, a little nutty, and alive. But there is protein in those tiny bodies, which is more than you can say for half the roots you've dug up today. You sit down next to the mound, chewing slowly. Insects crawl on your tongue, but you are too tired to care. Somewhere behind you, something rustles. You freeze. A part of you wants to look. The other part wants to run. But you sit still, twig in your mouth, heart pounding. The sound fades. Maybe it was nothing, or maybe it was a predator changing its mind. You exhale slowly and chew another bite. There is no such thing as a peaceful meal here, only a slightly less dangerous one, because in this world, even the food can kill you. The age of cold, the ice age. You are cold, not the cozy kind of cold, like stepping onto tile in the middle of the night or poking a foot out from under the blanket. No, this is the kind of cold that seeps into your bones and stays there. The kind of cold that makes your joints feel ancient, even though you have only lived for 8 or 9 years. You shiver beneath a thin canopy of tree leaves, curled up like a question mark. There is no fire, no furs, only the slow, creeping cold of a world that hasn't decided what season it wants to be. You are in the ice age. or at least brushing against its edges. The Pleistocene climate is volatile, switching gears like a toddler with a light switch. One decade, everything is lush and green. The next, frost creeps down the mountains and across the plains, and watering holes turn into icy mirrors. And you are completely unbuilt for this. Historians still debate how much Homo habilis had to contend with glacial climates, or if you largely stuck to equatorial zones where the cold never truly froze your bone marrow. But here's the thing, even near the equator, nights can become brutal, especially when your only shelter is a fig tree with a good crook in the trunk and a few thorny leaves. Your skin is exposed. You have hair, yes, but it is sparse, not thick enough to insulate. You rub your hands into your armpits to hold some warmth, but it is barely enough. Every night you curl tighter. You try to breathe slowly, deeply, so your own breath can warm the air in front of your face. But you are not fooling your body. It knows. It wants warmth. It wants safety. And the wind, it does not help. It whistles through the trees as if laughing. You press closer to the trunk, your back scraping the bark, careful not to tumble off your chosen perch. Sleeping in a tree is safer than on the ground, sure, but only slightly. Branches shift, birds startle, and every now and then something climbs, something quiet. Your stomach rumbles again, not that it ever truly stops. Hunger and cold are old friends. They visit you often. You wonder what it would feel like to have warmth, not just from the sun or exertion, but a real, persistent heat. A fire, a blanket, even a soft patch of moss that doesn't feel like frozen sponges. But comfort is a myth here. You rise with the first hint of daylight, not because you are rested, but because you have survived the night. That alone feels like a victory. Your limbs ache, your fingers are numb, your breath plumes out in front of you. It feels wrong to see your breath like that, hanging in the air like a ghost. You blink it away and cautiously climb down, feet numb, every movement slow and creaky. You need food, and food means moving, but the landscape has changed again. Patches of grass are brown and brittle, bushes are withered, animal tracks are fewer, and when you find them, all of them point away from the valley. You are not the only one who has noticed the temperature drop. You pass a dry riverbed. A week ago, it was trickling with cold water and slippery stones. Now it is cracked and dry, the mud peeling away from itself like tired skin. You stop and kneel. Maybe a puddle is left, anything, something. You find a patch of wet sand and suck at it as if it owed you something. This is survival, Pleistocene style. You keep walking, and your world keeps shifting. The trees are sparser, the wind is sharper. You notice snow, not drifts, but tiny flakes clinging to the grass like dandruff. It is beautiful, but you hate it all the same. Snow means no roots to dig, no bugs to poke, no animals lingering long enough to find. Even the flies are gone. You crouch near a boulder and press your fingers into a patch of moss. Cold, slimy. You scrape it off with a stone and chew it anyway. It tastes like disappointment. But hey, fiber. A curious fact for your frozen misery. Early humans may have relied on coprophagy. Yes, sometimes eating feces to survive the long, lean winters. Their own or someone else's. If that sounds terrible, it's because it is. But when your choice is 1, die, or 2, eat that mysterious patty by the bushes, well, nature does not care about your dignity. You keep moving, one foot in front of the other, joints creaking like old trees. The air smells clean, too clean. Nothing is rotting, nothing is blooming, nothing is moving. And then, tracks. You crouch low. Something passed here recently. Not a predator, hoof prints. Wide ones, heavy ones. A herd, perhaps. That could mean food, or danger, or both. You follow the tracks, heart beating faster, not from fear, but from the possibility of something other than gnawing cold and empty days. You climb a small rise and spot them. Giant herbivores huddled near a rock windbreak. Their breath clouds the air. They do not see you, not yet. You creep closer, not to attack. You are not a hunter, but to watch, to learn. Maybe they will leave scraps. Maybe something else will kill one and you can scavenge. That is hope. It is always hope. You settle behind a rock and curl up, not to sleep, not this time, but just to stay hidden. Your breath slows, your limbs ache, the cold never truly leaves, but you are still here. The scavenger's bitter edge, predator proximity. You hear it before you see it, a low growl, almost a rumble, like thunder trapped under the earth. It is distant at first, then closer, then it fades. You freeze. Your entire body, small, hunched, underfed, locks on instinct. That sound does not belong to the wind. It does not belong to your kind. It belongs to something bigger, something with claws, something that utterly does not care how handy your hands are. You are not alone here. Your world, already harsh, is teeming with predators. This is not a nature documentary where the lions yawn in the sun and the antelopes frolic in golden fields. This is the real Pleistocene, where every animal is either dangerous, dead, or desperately trying not to be one of the two. And you are not high on the food chain. You are chewy and slow and barely worth the effort. The ground carries their tracks, massive paw prints, some as wide as your head, pressed into the damp mud. When it's fresh, you touch it with trembling fingers, and the soil is still warm. That means it was here only minutes ago. A saber-toothed cat, probably. Meganterion, if you want to be precise. It walks like a mist and strikes like thunder. You won't even hear it coming. You back away, heart pounding, and dive into a thicket. Every leaf touches your skin as if to report your position. The air smells of wet bark and predator musk. Sharp, metallic, dangerous. You crouch beneath a thorny bush and hold your breath. You don't move for a long time, because in this world, movement can mean death. Historians still argue whether Homo habilis had specific alarm calls, like modern primates, different alarm sounds for different types of predators. You may not know the words, but you can feel what kind of threat is near. Something that stalks, something that chases, and something that waits. Each one triggers a different kind of terror in your gut. You wait until the shadows shift elsewhere. Slowly, painfully, you uncurl and shuffle along a stream bed, staying low, eyes wide. Every rock could hide teeth. Every bush could growl. You have seen it before. One moment your group is feeding, half watching the horizon. The next, one of you is gone, dragged into the grass by something striped and quiet. There is usually no scream, just a dull thud, maybe a little rustle, then silence. Sometimes you see what is left. The world is cruel. You pass a carcass, recent, only bone and sinew and flies. But the shape of the rib cage, the drag marks in the soil, the shattered femur, they tell a story. Something big died here. Then something bigger came and ripped it apart. You bend to examine the bone. A stone tool can scrape the marrow from inside. You look around, always look around. Then you drive a sharp flake into the bone. The crack is loud, too loud. You freeze. Silence. Then a rustle in the bush. You drop the bone and scramble for the trees, climbing quickly, fingers digging into the bark, feet slipping once, twice. Your breath catches as something below steps into the clearing. It is here. Golden eyes, striped fur, muscles coiled beneath the skin. A saber-toothed cat indeed. It sniffs the air, lowers its head to the broken bone, and licks up the marrow you failed to get. It does not look up, but it could. You remain perfectly still in the tree, because in this world, stillness is survival. A curious fact, the Meganterion saber teeth were not just long, they were fragile. One wrong bite into bone and they could snap. That is why it preferred soft kills, throats, bellies, the juicy parts. Which means if it caught you, it wouldn't start with your arm or leg. It would go straight for your throat. A comforting thought. You wait and wait. The cat finishes sniffing and vanishes as quickly as it came, like a mist disappearing in the heat. You remain in the tree anyway, just in case. The branches groan slightly under your weight, but they are your only refuge. From up high, you can spot movement, plan an escape, maybe even get a few minutes of troubled rest. But there is more than just one predator. Hyenas roam in packs. Pachycrocuta, as they are called now. Giant, snarling things with jaws that can crush your skull like an eggshell. They don't hunt you, usually, but if you are wounded, alone, or slow, they will. And unlike the cats, they laugh when they do it. You remember one night, the noise, not one voice, but many surrounding you, cackling. They did not attack, but they knew you were there. You stayed in that tree until sunrise, gripping the branch so hard your palms bled. There is no safe place here, not on the ground, not in the trees, and certainly not near the water, because beneath the murky surface of the river, something else waits. Crocodilus thorbri. It's fine if you can't pronounce it. You wouldn't get a chance to scream it anyway. It waits motionless until you bend down for a drink, then snatches. You are a splash, a ripple, then a memory. Historians still debate whether Homo habilis had enough spatial awareness to recognize specific predator territories, whether you knew where not to go, or simply avoided the places where friends vanished. Either way, your instincts are loud and clear. Do not linger near rivers. You try to move through this world like a whisper. You climb the trees like shadows. You drink from leaves. You sleep with one eye open, one foot braced against a branch. Because everything here, everything bigger, faster, stronger, is hungry. And you are simply available. The obsession of hunger. You are hungry. Again, of course. Hunger is your oldest companion now. It gnaws at your stomach like a second heartbeat, steady, constant, never satisfied. You do not remember what it feels like to be full. You only know that every morning starts with the question, what can I eat that won't kill me first? And sadly, options are few. You begin the day the same way you always do, sliding off your precarious sleeping branch, joints aching, muscles sore from the tension they held all night. You stretch cautiously, something cracks in your back. The sun is just a smear of pale gold on the horizon, and the air is cool, too cool to relax. Your eyes scan the thicket, hoping to see something edible. Berries, bugs, even bark. But it has been a dry week, and the roots are bitter. The insects have burrowed deeper. You suspect the hyenas got to the last carcass in the area 3 days ago. Nothing is left but ribs that look like broken umbrellas. So you walk, quiet, deliberate. You are not a hunter. Let's be clear about that. Homo habilis is not an apex predator by any food chain. You lack the strength, the speed, the claws. What you have is patience and sharp stones, and a desperate willingness to get close to something much larger than yourself. If it means that maybe, just maybe, you can scrape a few pieces of meat. That is your role in this ancient ecosystem. Not glamorous, not heroic, but essential. Historians still debate how often early humans actively hunted versus merely lurking on the fringes of predator kills, waiting to slip in like nervous gatecrashers. But one thing is certain. You have done this before. You know the signs. The rustle in the distance, the smell of blood on the wind, the vulture circling like lazy satellites. Your stomach tightens with a kind of hopeful dread. This could be food, or it could be the last thing you ever see. You move toward the scent. Eventually, you find it. A dead wildebeest or something similar. Its body is half intact, already torn open at the belly. The meat is fresh, steam still faintly rising from the side. You freeze, sniffing the air. Nothing nearby, not yet. You approach slowly, a stone tool in your hand, just a chipped shard, but sharp enough to matter. You kneel beside the carcass, eyes scanning, ears twitching at every sound, and then, quickly, as if you had practiced 1,000 times, you cut. It does not slice smoothly. The skin is tough, the muscle resists, but eventually a strip tears free. It glistens red in your hand. You do not cook it, you do not season it, you just chew. It is warm, metallic, stringy, and exactly what you need. You eat like a thief, fast, guilty, vigilant, because you know this moment will not last. Sure enough, after a few minutes, the air shifts, a quiet crunching sound behind you. You freeze, you look back. Too many eyes. A small pack of hyenas threading through the grass like smoke. One is looking directly at you, not attacking, not yet, just watching. You back away slowly, mouth full, hand clutching your tool tightly. You do not want to drop it. Stone flakes are hard-won. The hyenas advance. You hiss. You wave your arms. One snarls. You snarl back, though your heart is in your throat. You are not a threat. You are just buying time. Eventually, they get what they came for, and you run. That strip of meat in your hand, that might be your entire calorie reserve for the next 2 days, and you are lucky to have gotten it at all. You don't think of how many mouths are hungrier than yours, or how many have failed. You think of this bite, this day. That is all that matters. You have won a round in a game where most lose before they even realize they are playing. A curious fact. Evidence from fossilized bones suggests that early Homo habilis often left distinct tool marks alongside predator tooth marks. That means you were not the first one at the kill site, but you were definitely next. It's like being the nervous gatecrasher at a medieval wedding, only instead of bad wine and dancing, it's a half-eaten zebra and a pack of hyenas deciding if you're worth chasing. The truth is, you have learned to read the ground. You notice where the vultures gather. You follow the lion paths, not to hunt them, but to pick their leftovers. You know where the predators sleep, when they feed, and when they are too full to bother with you sneaking in and taking a little. But it is always a gamble. Today, you were lucky. Tomorrow, who knows? You retreat to the tree line, chewing slowly now, savoring every stringy bite. Your teeth ache, of course. They always ache. Meat fibers are stuck deep in your molars. You'll need to pry them out with a stick later, or they will rot. One infected tooth, and you are done for. But right now, this is a victory. You make it back to your perch with a full stomach and aching feet. The sun is high, the shadows shorter. You lie back high in the tree, your stomach pressed against the branch. For a moment, you let your eyes close. It's not sleep, not quite, but close enough. And here, close enough, is everything. The social dance, the group. You hear them before you see them. Not animals this time, but voices, human or close enough to human. Low, guttural murmurs, grunts, the slap of bare feet on packed earth. You freeze, hunkered down behind a scrawny bush, gripping a half-eaten root like a club. It won't do much, but it's better than holding nothing. You are not alone, and this is not the solitude of an animal passing your camp. It is your own kind, or close to it. Other Homo habilis, perhaps even the same loose group you wandered away from days or weeks ago. It is hard to tell. Time here is just sun and shadow, sleep and hunger. They move in a loose group, 4, maybe 5 figures. One limps, another carries a bundle of something long and shiny, maybe bones. You watch them pass, your breath held in your chest. They haven't seen you yet, and you haven't decided if that's a good thing or a bad thing. You see, being part of a group is not always safer. It just means different risks. Sometimes you share food. Other times, you are the food. Homo habilis is not known for big, tightly knit tribes. You form loose groups, maybe kin, or maybe just not enemies. You might sleep near each other, forage in the same area, grunt occasionally in a way that says, "I see you, I won't kill you yet." Historians still debate how deep these social bonds were. Did you have names? Did you mourn your dead? Or did you just move on to the next edible route? You decide to follow quietly. Their path snakes through the low bushes and leads toward a rocky ridge. The tallest one, wide-shouldered, thick-jawed, seems to lead, though not with authority, just habit. You recognize the look. It's the same look you have, eyes scanning for danger, for opportunity, for the next half-eaten carcass to crouch near. You linger behind, like a ghost, lurking. If they find something, maybe you can join, or steal, or just stay close enough to absorb their caution without getting too near, because life in a group is a negotiation. There is a reason you prefer the trees. Trees don't talk behind your back. Trees don't push you away when food appears. Trees don't smack your hand when you reach for a cracked egg or beat you with a thigh bone because you looked at someone the wrong way. That is the thing about early humans. We are social, but not always friendly. They stop in a shallow clearing. One of them drops a rock with a clang. Another starts hammering at it, shaping it into a flake. Tool making. It is clumsy, but it works. You watch from behind a boulder, fascinated. That stone could be a scraper, or a blade, or just something sharp enough to dig up tubers. One of them spots you. You don't move. They don't either. The moment hangs still, fragile and strange. Then slowly, the limping one gestures, just a chin flick, an invitation or a warning. It's impossible to tell. You step out into the open anyway, hands visible, the root dropped at your feet like an offering. The group watches. No one speaks. There are no real words, just shared sounds, body language, looks. The tall one snorts, but doesn't move. The limping one examines you, then turns back to their rock. You sit down nearby, not close, not far. You are tolerated. It is a good start. Later, someone throws you a piece of bark with bugs stuck to it, a gift or a test. You eat it quickly all the same. Your hands remain visible, your movements are slow. You learn the rules, and the first rule is, do not be a threat. A curious fact, archaeologists have found evidence of interpersonal violence among early hominins. Skull fractures, healed bones, blunt force trauma. You are not always gentle with each other. Group dynamics involve jealousy, aggression, even competition for mates or scraps. In a world with no jails, no police, no HR department, justice came swift and brutal. The limping one grunts again, low and sharp. You look over. They are chewing on something soft, marrow perhaps, from a cracked thigh bone. They hold it loosely. Then, shockingly, they extend a hand. They offer you a bite. Your stomach leaps. You hesitate, because generosity is not common. Then you lean in and take it carefully, eyes locked. It is warm, greasy, magnificent. That is what life in a group can be: hunger, risk, and the occasional miracle. But comfort is fleeting, because soon 2 others start squabbling over a pile of half-rotten roots. One shrieks, the other pushes. There is no warning. The bigger one raises a rock and swings. A dull thud. The smaller one slumps like a wet rag. Silence. The tall leader grunts, low and sharp. The others scatter slightly but do not interfere. The aggressor drags the roots closer. No one helps the fallen one. You watch, not in shock. This is not new, just in quiet recognition. That could have been you. Historians still debate how much empathy early humans had. Did they comfort the injured or leave them behind? Was cooperation a choice or simply a way to delay being the next one to fall? The injured one stirs, moans, blood matting their hair. They will probably survive. Maybe. But no one is rushing to help. You slip away at sundown, quiet as a shadow, because sometimes survival means knowing when to leave the warmth of the group and return to the solitude of the trees. The invisible war. Sickness. You are sick. Not dramatically so. Not the kind that makes you fall down and die. Just unwell. Your stomach aches. Your head feels heavy, as if stuffed with dirt. Your eyes water. Every breath smells of old leaves. And you are not sure why. You haven't eaten anything that rotten, have you? But that's the rub, isn't it? In this world, there are 1,000 ways to feel this way, and no way to know which one got you this time. You lie curled up in a nest of dead branches, tucked between the roots of a fig tree. The dirt is cool against your cheek. It should help, but nothing truly helps. Your limbs ache. Your stomach clenches every so often, and when it does, you bite your hand to stop from groaning. You are alone again. You left the group 2 nights ago when the tension grew thick and the tall one started giving you the look. The one that says, "There are too many mouths here. Yours might be extra." So now it is just you and whatever this sickness is. Historians still debate the diseases Homo habilis faced. No fossil records of the flu, no DNA evidence of stomach bugs 2 million years ago. But let's be real. If you are drinking from a puddle where a sick animal just defecated, if you are eating a grub that is already half decomposed, if your fingers are never clean of dirt, you are going to be sick, often. You are shivering. The sun is out, but you are cold. Fever, perhaps, or the wind has picked up again. Either way, you hug yourself tighter and press your forehead into the soil. You think of water and then immediately think of how far away the creek is. It is not just the food and the predators out here. It is the invisible things. Parasites, bacteria, viruses. You do not know the words, of course. You just know that sometimes someone grows quiet, curls up, and stops moving, and you cannot see the thing that did it. You crawl toward a patch of dew, licking the moisture from the leaves. It tastes green, bitter. Your stomach rumbles again, not with hunger, but with warning. It flips, twists, complains. You wait, then retch. A curious fact. There is some evidence that early hominins may have instinctively practiced forms of geophagy, eating clay or dirt to settle the stomach. You do not know this, but you feel it, the urge. You press a lump of pale mud to your tongue, then swallow. It is dry, chalky, unpleasant, but your stomach settles a fraction. It is not elegant, but hey, nothing is elegant here. You stagger up slowly. Everything hurts. Your legs feel heavy, as if they belong to someone else. You walk, hand pressed to your belly, following instinct more than memory. There is a spot nearby where rocks gather water after a rain. You hope it hasn't dried up yet. Every step feels like a gamble. You make it to the rocks. Water is there, stagnant, warm, filled with tiny things that wiggle just below the surface. You drink it anyway because you are thirsty, and thirst does not wait. Then you sit down, or rather, slump. The changing ages, nomadism to settled life. The rock is warm against your back. You lean your head back and close your eyes, just for a minute maybe. When you open them again, the shadows have shifted. Something moves nearby. A monkey. Not your kind. Just a tree dweller with nimble fingers and wide, suspicious eyes. It shrieks when it sees you, then flings a fig at you. Misses, narrowly. You grunt back quietly, too tired to be offended. The monkey bounces away. You are almost jealous of it. The agility, the speed, the tail. You lie back down, amestily, and stare at the sky. This world is beautiful and cruel. Clouds drift lazily above you, soft and pink at the edges. Somewhere beyond those clouds, people will one day invent antibiotics, microscopes, thermometers, but none of that exists for you. You are a fragile body in a world of invisible threats. You remember others you have seen, people who grew slower, quieter. One had a wound on his leg that swelled, turned red, then black. They shrieked for hours, then went still. You stayed away from their body. Everyone did. Even the scavengers seemed wary. Your species does not understand infection, but your instincts do. They tell you what to avoid, where to bury waste, which water smells wrong. You cough. Your throat burns. You root your fingers in the dirt, looking for roots with moisture. Find one. Bite it. It's bitter, but it helps a little. Another strange detail, some researchers believe early humans may have instinctively used natural medicinal plants, either by accident or by observation. Chimpanzees do it. Why wouldn't you? You will never know the word antiviral, but maybe you will stumble across something with enough potency to slow the sickness down. You rest again. Sleep is never deep here. You doze. Sometimes you have dreams. Sometimes it is just darkness with sound. Wind, insects, distant cries. You wonder sometimes if you will wake up at all, but eventually you do. The fever breaks by morning. You are not better, not exactly, but you are alive. Your stomach no longer twists in protest. Your legs shake, but they hold you. The water still tastes of tadpoles, but you drink it without gagging. You have survived another invisible enemy. You are tired of walking. Not just tired, like aching feet or a sore back. It is deeper. Your bones ache as if you are ancient. Your shoulders slump without thought. You have been following the migratory paths of grazing animals for days, moving from one scant berry patch to another hopeful stream to another patch of sun-scorched nothingness. The ground has become dry, cracked. The plants are tough and defensive, the kind that has thorns that stab and sap that stings. There is little left here, and your stomach is weary of your promises. You stop beneath a gnarled tree that barely has enough leaves to cast shade. The wind is dry and loud, sweeping the sand from your feet as if trying to erase you. You crouch down, look at the horizon, and try to imagine something better than this. Then something shifts in your head. A thought, not a fully formed idea, just an urge. What if you didn't have to move anymore? What if the food could come to you? It sounds ridiculous at first, but your body remembers where the plants grew best, where the water lingered longest. The idea clings to your mind like a burr to your fur. Maybe, instead of chasing the herds forever, you could stay a little longer. Maybe you could find a way to make that patch of dry, cracking dirt work. You don't know it, but you are standing at the brink of something big. Historians still argue about the exact moment humans shifted from nomadic gatherers to settled farmers. But somewhere, perhaps in a dry season like this, someone like you got tired of wandering. You notice a cluster of seeds near the riverbed, left behind by animals or scattered by the wind. You put a few in your pouch, not because you know what they are, but just because they feel important. That instinct, it will change everything. The cost of settling, the beginning of agriculture. You settle near the creek that still holds water in the mornings. It's muddy, of course, and slow-moving, but it's enough. You dig up roots nearby. You notice that certain patches seem to grow back faster. The idea grows with them. A curious fact, some researchers suggest the first farming was accidental, that early humans may have spread seeds through waste or lazy habits long before anyone thought to plant them intentionally. You are not planting a garden yet. You are simply staying in one place for a few days, then a few more. Food gets slightly easier to find because you know where to look. And eventually, you realize something else. When you don't move all the time, you can carry more. You can store things. You can keep a sharp stone or a smooth bone or a pile of useful seeds. For the first time, your hands are full of possibility. But it comes at a cost. Your back starts to hurt more because now, instead of walking, you are bending, digging, grinding, pounding. You smash seeds between rocks until they become a bitter mush. You chew and chew and chew because now your diet is starch and more starch, and fire isn't here yet to soften it. Your teeth suffer immensely. Historians can trace the shift to agriculture in fossilized jaws, cavities, abscesses, massive wear from grinding seeds into a coarse paste and eating them raw or barely processed. You had bad teeth. Now you have pathetic teeth. And your body changes too. You get leaner in some ways, thicker in others. The variety in your diet drops. You used to eat anything you could find: nuts, bugs, meat, fruit, even the occasional frog. Now it's roots and grass seeds and maybe a few berries if you are lucky. You stop walking so much, but you start working more. Longer digging, longer preparing food that fills your stomach but does not make you strong. And because you're not moving, you start living closer to others. That means you share more food. But it also means you share something else. Diseases, the invisible enemies you thought you left behind. They love it. Close contact, shared water, rotting food scraps, the perfect conditions for bacteria to throw a tiny, brutal party in your gut. Your lifespan doesn't actually go up, but your population does. More food, however bland or tooth-breaking, means more people, more surviving infants, more noise, more competition. You start seeing conflict over space, not just over food, not just over predators, but over the land, the dirt, the spot where the river bends, the tree that always has fruit. You invented farming. Congratulations, you invented envy. And that brings something else with it: possession, territory, control. You used to wander. Now you stay. And when someone else approaches, you stand taller. You do not smile. You grip your stone tool a little tighter. You do not have a word for mine, but you understand the concept perfectly. The idea of a home begins to form. Not a house yet, but just a space where you belong more than someone else, where your fire might someday be lit, where your roots might grow a little stronger next season. You don't know what is coming, cities, kingdoms, rent, but for now, you have taken the first step. And like everything else in this world, it is a step forward and a risk, because by settling, you stopped running. And in a world full of predators, disease, and other people with sharp rocks, that might not be the best idea. The primal proto-city, dirt and disease. You smell it before you see it, a thick, humid stench that clings to your nostrils and settles in the back of your throat. It's not death, not exactly, but something close. Rot, yeast, dirt mixed with something human. You gag slightly and keep walking. You've been following the river downstream for days. The trees thin out, the scrub disappears, and then, suddenly, it is here. A cluster of huts. Smoke curls from a dozen smoldering pits. Shouts and coughing drift from the distance. A continuous line of figures trudging between piles of refuse and brackish puddles. This is a settlement. Congratulations, you have found what will one day be called a city, or at least its earliest, filthiest prototype, and it is disgusting. Historians agree. The rise of early proto-urban settlements brought tremendous advances in communal living, shared labor, and specialization. But here is what they don't always emphasize. These places were filthy. No plumbing, no sewage, no privacy. Just people piled near people, breathing the same air, drinking the same water, and dumping their waste practically everywhere. You step carefully around a puddle that might have once been soup or something worse. You are no longer wandering alone in the wild. Now you are surrounded by dozens, perhaps hundreds of people. Babies squall, old ones moan. Bodies are pressed in cramped huts made of mud, thatch, and impossible dreams. Everyone is busy, digging, hauling, chewing, coughing, always coughing. You try not to breathe too deeply. The air smells of soot and something vaguely fungal. You approach the center of the settlement. A woman is pounding grain with a heavy rock, her arms thick with repetition. A child squats nearby, scooping something with grimy fingers into their mouth. Another is dragging a dead bird across the ground. No one notices you yet. You're not sure if you want them to. This place might offer protection from predators, but you are not sure which is worse, being torn apart by a hyena or catching whatever that child just sneezed onto the ground. A curious fact: the earliest known cities, such as Çatalhöyük, show no real division between living spaces and waste areas. People slept inches from where they buried their trash, and sometimes their dead. Urban planning had not yet been invented or even imagined. You find a shaded corner behind a hut and squat. Flies descend immediately. One lands on your face, you swat it away. Another lands on your food, you swat that away too. A third lands on someone's open wound. No one swats that away. They are used to it. A man limps past you, dragging a splintered wooden sled piled with firewood. His leg is wrapped in dirty cloth, soaked through. You smell the infection. He doesn't meet your eye. This is not a community of joy. It is a community of necessity. No one is here for the company. They are here because the food is nearby, because the walls, however muddy, offer a little protection, and because this place, however foul, means one less night freezing in the tree while leopards circle below. You feel the compromise. It presses down on your skin like the heat radiating off the clay walls. A child offers you something. Bread, perhaps. It is hard as rock and smells faintly of mold. But you accept it because refusing might be rude and because, frankly, your options are limited. You chew slowly. Your molars complain. There is sand in it. Of course there is. You look at the water nearby, a shallow pool clogged with algae, feathers, and something unidentified floating on the edges. People scoop it into clay jugs anyway. A woman dips a rag into it to wipe her baby's face. Another fills a bowl and drinks. You look on in horror, and then you drink too, because thirst does not care about bacteria. Historians still argue about the precise causes of the first cholera-like outbreaks in early urban societies. But we know this: the moment people started living in dense clusters and drinking from shared, contaminated sources, disease exploded. Germ theory won't be invented for another 2 million years. Until then, you will get sick, repeatedly, and have no idea why. Someone nearby sneezes so hard they collapse. You pretend not to notice. That is the unspoken rule of the proto-city. Don't make eye contact unless you have to. Everyone is tired. Everyone is sick. Everyone is secretly wondering if they made a huge mistake by lingering here. You help grind grain for a while. You are not part of the group, but no one stops you. There is a rhythm to it. Push, scrape, pour. You almost feel useful. Then your hand cramps and your back starts to seize up. Farming gave you food, but it also gave you repetitive strain injury. You leave the group before nightfall. You cannot sleep here. Too much coughing, too many people, not enough space between breaths. You find a patch of dirt just outside the settlement and curl up in it like a stray dog. You ate, you worked, you contributed, but you miss the trees. Even if they creaked, even if they dropped bugs on your face at night, at least you were alone. You listen to the wind rustle the dry grass. You cough just once and try not to think about that puddle you drank from. The scent of an age. Odor masking. You smell. There is no delicate way to put it. Your body is a canvas of sweat, dirt, and whatever that slime was that dripped on you while you were crouching under the midden this morning. You have stopped flinching at the smell. Everyone here smells. It's the one thing that unites you all. You, the grain pounder, the wood hauler, the fish scaler, the dung collector, you are all participating in one great aromatic festival of bodily stench. But you have noticed something else, a shift. People are starting to try to mask the odor. That woman with braided hair, she is rubbing herself with crushed herbs and clay. That older man with a scar on his cheek, he constantly smears his skin with what looks like ash mixed with some oil. You don't know what it does, but he smells of smoke and mint. If mint gave up on life. Welcome to the Bronze Age. Historians love this era. Tools get fancier, settlements grow, trade routes form. But no one talks about the stink. Body odor, unwashed tunics, pits boiling with fish grease, urine-soaked cloth used to soften leather, the reek of people living in close quarters, working all day, rarely, if ever, washing anything. You tug at your own clothing, such as it is, a loose wrap of coarse fiber that scratches more than it covers. It smells of the river, or possibly someone else's river wrap. There is no soap. Not exactly. Not the bubbly, lavender-scented soap you envision. There is ash, maybe sand, the river if you're lucky, or a puddle that looks like a river if you're desperate. And every time you try to wash, you risk freezing, being bitten, or accidentally bathing next to a herd animal that cares very much about personal space. You try rubbing yourself with crushed leaves. It helps a little, but now you just smell like dirty leaves. A curious fact, in summerly cultures, people wore scented cones of animal fat on their heads that slowly melted throughout the day, releasing perfume. Imagine being hot, sticky, and surrounded by bugs, and you decide the answer is to rub beef grease into your scalp. You walk through the settlement. A narrow path winds between the rows of huts and lean-tos. Smoke curls from the fire pits. Children shriek. A man sneezes directly into his hand, wipes it on his tunic, and continues hammering a copper blade. Hygiene is a loose concept here. Cleanliness is more about ritual than sanitation. You bathe on holidays, or for funerals, or when someone important tells you to. But not because you are dirty, because honestly, you are always dirty. You crouch by the stream, hoping to rinse your hands. The water is murky, but it is better than nothing. As you scrub, the woman beside you cracks open a shellfish, scoops out something slimy inside, and smears it under her armpits. You watch. She grunts. You grunt back, which seems to satisfy her. She gestures for you to try. You hesitate. The goo smells of sour milk and crushed mint. You dab a little on your neck. Just a smudge. Congratulations, now you smell like you have been unsuccessfully repaired. It is the best there is. Back toward the center of the village, a group is gathered around a pile of dried dung. They are burning it, not for fuel, but for the smoke. It drives away the bugs, they say. You sit in the smoke for a while, blinking through the haze, tears streaming from the corners of your eyes. You are not sure it works. You are still itching, but you are warmer and, strangely, a little numb. Historians still argue about the effectiveness of these ancient pest control methods. Burning dung, hanging herbs, rubbing on oil. None of it killed bacteria, but it masked the worst of the stench. And in a world without soap or science, that was close enough. Someone hands you a carved comb. Bone, delicate, surprisingly smooth. You run it through your hair and immediately rake out a colony of tiny hopping insects. Lice, of course. You crush one between your fingernails and flick it away. You will never be clean, not by modern standards, but you can be less dirty. That is the goal here. You wipe your face with a damp cloth, even though the cloth smells of goat. You chew a leaf to freshen your breath. You rub your feet with sand, scrubbing off the layers of old skin. There is no mirror, but if there were, it would not be kind. You are sunbaked, scarred, covered in a film of sweat, dust, and protein grease. You smell of meat, smoke, and whatever is currently rotting in the back of the settlement. And yet, somehow, you have adapted. The flies don't bother you as much now. Your skin, once soft, is rough and calloused. The smell of sweat no longer signals alarm. It signals life. If you stink, it means you are still breathing. You sit by the fire, comb in hand, and watch the smoke drift up into the early evening air. Someone offers you a piece of boiled something. You take it, chew. It is hot, bland, faintly tastes of dirt. You swallow it anyway. And beside you, someone leans over and whispers something. You don't know the words, but you recognize the tone. They think you smell better. Progress, specialization, and risk. The bottom of society. You have a job now, not the kind with a lunch break or a paycheck. No one is giving you a bronze medallion for employee of the lunar cycle. But make no mistake, you have a task, a role, a daily duty. And if you don't do it, someone else might notice, and not kindly. Your job? The human incense stick. You laugh quietly, bitterly, as you walk through the smoke-shrouded market area, waving a bowl of smoldering herbs and dried dung pellets. The smoke curls around you, a choking haze meant to drive away insects, spirits, or maybe just the stench of the pile of fish fermenting in the sun nearby. Technically, your role is to purify the air. Realistically, you are just walking aromatherapy. The irony, you stink too. Beneath all that ceremonial smoke, you still smell of last week's sweat and whatever the goats rolled in. Welcome to the ancient specialization of labor. You were not born into wealth. You were not born into power. So, you were assigned one of the jobs no one wanted. You know them. The dung collector, the clay pot repairer, the public fire tender, the bone scraper, the grain pounder, the corpse hauler, the bottom rungs of a very steep, smelly ladder. Historians love to admire the division of labor in early civilizations. But let's be honest, it mostly meant the division of misery into manageable shifts. The wealthy got beads and ceremonies. You got ash in your eyes and aching knees. Today, you are helping to clean out the latrine pit. Yes, this is a reality now, a communal pit dug deep just outside the settlement, loosely covered with reeds and boards. It is supposed to be a sanitation innovation. Instead, it is a bubbling swamp of horror that sometimes hisses. You try not to breathe through your nose, poking the edge of the pit with a stick, checking for cave-ins. A curious fact, some ancient civilizations, like early Mesopotamia, did have rudimentary sewage systems, but many others relied on gravity and hope. That innovation is what you are currently ankle-deep in. You carry a sloshing bucket back toward the communal waste trench, muttering to yourself and swatting at the flies brave enough to land directly on your face. You dump the bucket. Some of it splashes onto your leg. You do not cry, not out loud, but you stare at the fire pit for a long time and wonder what it would be like to just walk right into it. Your boss, if you can call her that, is a wide-shouldered woman with a voice like falling rocks and a face that hasn't smiled since the last eclipse. She gestures toward a pile of greasy rags, clearly soaked in something unholy, and grunts. You understand the message. Washing them involves a flat rock, cold water, and a chunk of something vaguely soap-like made of fat and ash. You scrub, scrub, scrub. Your knuckles bleed. The rags do not get cleaner. They just smell different, now like burnt hair instead of death. And then, just when you think the day can't get worse, a child runs up and vomits on your leg. No one apologizes. It is simply part of the workday. You rinse off in the stream that smells like a soup that forgot it was soup weeks ago. You find a patch of moss and scrape the worst of the grime off your leg. Then you breathe deep, carefully, because at some point you stopped expecting comfort. You started measuring success in terms of less disgusting. The afternoon sun is high, and with it, the stench of everything intensifies. You stagger to the shadow of a thatched hut, eyes tearing up, and squat down. A man nearby is sharpening arrowheads. His hands are quick, practiced. You watch. You want that job. Sitting in the shade, crafting something sharp, something useful, something not covered in human waste. But you know how it works. Jobs are not chosen here. They are assigned, by birth, by accident, by a ridiculous sneeze at the wrong moment. You once knew a girl who became the village tanner because she stood too close to the animal pit one morning. The smell never left her hair. Still, you hope. Because maybe, just maybe, if you work hard enough or stink slightly less than yesterday, you will be rotated, promoted, not to anything grand, but to something less humiliating like a bone scraper or a ceremonial bell ringer. Historians still debate how rigid the labor systems were in early societies. Some evidence points to fluid roles, where tasks shifted seasonally. Others suggest that the early caste systems were born here, a division not just of labor, but of fate. You hope you are in the part where the tasks shift. As the sun sets, your final task is to light the night torches. It sounds romantic. It is not. You fumble with the flint. Your fingers are calloused from scraping rags and poking through waste. Sparks fly onto a bundle of dry grass. It catches fire. You lift the torch, wave it over your head, and walk the perimeter. It is the most power you have held all day. The new morning and the goat's curse. For a moment, you are a light bearer, a firewalker, one who casts shadows. Then the breeze blows, and ash flies straight into your face. Back to normal. You return to your sleeping spot, a patch of straw and a thin hide strung between two rocks. You lie down. The stars come out. Somewhere nearby, a dog howls. Or maybe a child. It's hard to tell. You do not complain, because in this world, even the worst job is better than no job. At least you are still needed. At least you are still here. You wake up, soaked by something cold. It takes a moment to register. You blink, wipe your eyes, and realize it's not rain. It's goat urine? A very confused-looking goat is standing over your sleeping spot, looking more apologetic than you would expect. You sigh. It's barely dawn, and the day is already getting personal. You sit up, stretch, and something in your spine cracks loud enough to startle the goat. Your feet ache, your head itches, your lower back feels like it's been trampled by a clay golem. You are officially in the Middle Ages, though you wouldn't call it that. All you know is that everything hurts, everyone stinks, and no one seems to understand how a body is supposed to work. You head for the communal fire. Breakfast is a gray, lumpy gruel with the flavor profile of despair. You slurp it down. It tastes slightly better than yesterday's because someone added a handful of leeks, or perhaps weeds. Someone nearby is coughing, a deep, hacking cough that seems to echo off the clay walls. He holds a cloth to his face. It comes away red. No one says anything. Sickness is everywhere, and no one knows why. You don't understand germs. You have no microscopes or disinfectants. You just know that some people get hot and shaky, start coughing, stop eating, then stop everything, and sometimes they take others with them. Historians still debate whether medieval communities understood contagion in any meaningful sense. They certainly didn't know about bacteria, but they knew about patterns, and when one person in the village started coughing, everyone grew nervous. You are nervous now. You head to the village healer, not a doctor, but just someone who smells strongly of sage, burnt feathers, and self-confidence. She grunts, gestures for you to sit. Then the treatment begins. First, leeches. A handful of squirming, bloodthirsty creatures are slapped onto your skin. One on your arm, one behind your ear, one that tries to escape into your armpit. She catches it and scolds it. You're not sure which one of you she is addressing. Next, a poultice. She slaps a warm, pungent blob of herbs and pig fat onto your chest and binds it with cloth. It's gooey. It's flowing. You nod solemnly. Finally, the pièce de résistance, pigeon dung. She smears a thin paste of it near your temples, muttering something that sounds vaguely threatening. You are too polite to ask questions and too tired to argue. A curious fact. Yes, pigeon dung was actually used in medieval medicine, alongside crushed emeralds, roasted mice, and most famously, urine. You are a walking spice rack of the village's worst ideas. You walk back to your hut. It is made of wattle and daub, essentially sticks and mud, with a thatched roof that leaks if you stare at it too hard. The door creaks. The floor is mostly dirt. Your sleeping spot is a lumpy pile of straw that may or may not contain half a frog. You lie down, still covered in the sticky mass. Outside, a man is shouting about demons. Inside, your neighbor is praying loudly for his boils to disappear. You cough. Bad move. Two people stare at you as if you have just declared war. Welcome to the age of spiritual blame and bodily confusion. Get sick, and people assume you have sinned, or your neighbor has sinned, or the miller's wife is secretly a witch. Someone has to be responsible. And if there is no obvious culprit, congratulations, it's you. You once saw a woman accused of poisoning the well because she walked backward near it during a full moon. They tied her to a chair and threw her in the river. She floated. They decided she was guilty, then let her go. She didn't return. You feel a cough build in your chest. You swallow it down hard. Better to die quietly than be publicly suspicious. You try other remedies. You boil moss in water and drink it. You plug your nose with dried mint. You chew willow bark until your jaw aches. Sometimes it helps. Sometimes it just makes you vomit with better flavor. Historians still argue about the efficacy of these folk remedies. Some, like the willow bark, which contains salicine, a natural precursor to aspirin, actually worked. Others were less helpful, like trepanning. You heard of a man who had a hole drilled in his skull to let the bad air out. He said he felt lighter afterward. He also walked in circles for the rest of his life. You go back to the healer. She blows smoke on you. You cough harder. She gives you a dried rat's tail to hang around your neck. For balance, she says. You nod. Balance sounds good. That night, you sweat in your straw bed. You dream of cold streams and quiet woods, places with no coughing, no leeches, no chanting. You wake up damp, aching, and miraculously still breathing. You have survived another day. And in the Middle Ages, that is a solid win. Your chest still hurts. Your breathing is heavy. But you sit up, you put on your scratchy wool tunic, cinch your rope belt, and step out into the pale morning sun. Outside, someone's face is bleeding. No one reacts. You nod to him. He nods back. Because here, survival is the norm, and thriving is just surviving for a little longer. The shadow of suspicion, the scapegoat. You are in trouble. Not the kind you can outrun, not the kind with teeth or claws instead of teeth. This trouble is quieter, more human, more political, more religious. The kind that starts with a look and ends with a mob. You sneezed again this morning, and someone saw you do it near the church steps. Now 3 villagers are whispering, very organizedly. One crossed herself when she looked at you. Another spat in the dirt, specifically in your direction. You tried to smile. It was a mistake. Welcome to the medieval village justice system. If something bad happens, it has to be someone's fault, and preferably it's someone a little weird, someone with a limp or a scar, or a habit of muttering to themselves, or maybe just someone who doesn't wash on holy days. Guess who fits that description? You. This isn't your first brush with suspicion. You were eyed already for foraging herbs in the woods. You once mentioned the moon in a sentence not involving the Virgin Mary and got a week of suspicious glances. And now you have sneezed twice in 1 week during what people are calling the cursed season. Historians still debate how widespread formal inquisitions were in the early medieval villages. The Spanish Inquisition gets all the headlines, but low-level witch trials, accusations of blasphemy, and punishments for ungodly behavior were rampant long before that. You start to feel the heat. Literally, someone is lighting a torch in the village square for the evening vigil, and you can't help but notice how many people are standing around watching. Not quite accusing, but definitely not accusing. You retreat to your hut and keep quiet. You think about running, but where would you go? The next village? They'll ask who you are, why you arrived alone, what that smell is. Still the goat pee, let's be honest, and eventually you'll just be as suspicious there, maybe more so. You have done nothing, but that doesn't quite matter. The village priest has taken an interest. He is a wiry man with piercing eyes and a fondness for dramatic pauses. During his sermon, he talks about the evil among us and sickness as a punishment. He doesn't name names. He doesn't have to. People are looking at you anyway. A curious fact, ordeals were still practiced during this period. Someone accused of doing wrong might be asked to carry a red-hot iron bar. If your burns healed cleanly, you were innocent. If not, well, God had spoken. You tread carefully now. You attend church. You bow your head. You mumble along with the prayers even though you barely understand the Latin. You avoid the healer's hut. Everyone knows that herbs are fine until they aren't. One moment you're chewing willow bark, the next you are accused of spoiling the bread. You once helped a sick child by giving him honey with mint crushed. It helped his cough. But now, people are calling it the whispering leaf and wondering if you did something else, something unnatural. You stop helping. Someone drops a chicken egg in the square. It shatters. People look at the yolk, then at the person who dropped it, then at the sky, then at you. You are not sure what connection they are making, but you do not like it. You consider pretending to be sick to lay low, but pretending to be sick is dangerous, so is being sick. It's a tightrope walk between harmless and cursed. And then it happens. You find a small pouch near your hut, tied with string. Inside, a dead mouse, a feather, and some human hair. You don't need an explanation. It is an accusation. Someone believes you are the cause of the recent bad harvest, the sickness, the strange dreams people have been complaining about, maybe even the rain that fell too hard and too fast last week. They have decided you are a witch. You want to scream, to tell them you are just tired, just poor, just very, very unlucky. But you know how this goes. Once suspicion sticks, it won't wash off. Not with water, not with prayer. Historians still debate how many people were executed for witchcraft in the early Middle Ages. But even in places without formal trials, exile or mob violence was common. No one wanted to be near the cursed. So what do? You gather the few things you own: a knot of dried meat, a crude stone knife, and a leather wrap that barely qualifies as a shoe, and you slip away at dawn before the village is fully awake. You don't run, not exactly, that would look guilty. You walk, head down, feet aching, into the woods, into the mist, back to a life without walls, without food security, without the stench of suspicion. You don't know where you are going, but at least no one is looking at you when you cough anymore. And in this world, that counts as peace. The terror of the sea, scurvy and meager rations. You are surrounded by salt, a crust in your hair, on your clothes, burning the cracks in your fingers. You blink against the glare reflecting off the ocean, your eyes stung by the mix of sun, wind, and sea spray. Welcome aboard. You are officially a sailor now, or rather, an unwilling passenger with zero navigation skills who has been press-ganged onto the crew of a wooden death trap heading somewhere east, west, maybe just in circles. You aren't sure. The navigator seems confident, but you've seen him throw up in the bucket more than once. That bucket is also used for soup. You are on a medieval sea voyage, and it is not romantic. There is no fresh breeze or jolly singing. There are groaning timbers, damp beds, and a limitless supply of rats with too much personality. You sleep next to barrels of something pickled. Your pillow is a coil of scratchy rope, and your daily routine mostly consists of trying not to fall overboard. Every inch of this ship smells of brine, wood rot, and old fish. The crew is a mix of wide-eyed teenagers, sunburnt veterans, and one suspicious man who talks to his boots. You aren't sure of your role. You just know you're expected to haul ropes, carry buckets, and not die. You are also starting to notice something troubling. Your gums bleed, just a little at first, then more. When you bite down on your hardtack biscuit, the only meal of the day, you feel something shift. It is a tooth, or what is left of one. You spit it overboard and try not to panic, because panic wastes energy. Historians agree that scurvy was the curse of pre-modern sailors, caused by a lack of vitamin C. It resulted in bleeding gums, tooth loss, muscle pain, and eventually, death. You don't know what a vitamin is, but your body does, and it is begging for something green. You haven't seen a vegetable in weeks. You tried chewing a piece of sailcloth soaked in seawater. It only made things worse. A shipmate suggests chewing rope. Helps with the hunger, he says. He himself is missing 3 fingers, he tells you. You start chewing the rope. At night, you lie awake, swaying with the ship. The stars are bright and cold. The sea breathes beneath you, slow and massive. You have learned not to ask questions like, how far are we? Or what is our plan? The answer is always, if the wind holds, we will be fine. The wind never holds. You get stuck in the doldrums, days of no movement, heat, no shade, no progress. You drink warm water from slimy barrels. Something is floating in one. You try not to look. Someone dies. He was old, or maybe just unlucky. Fever, vomiting, then silence. The captain reads a prayer. The crew wraps him in canvas, ties a rock to his feet, and drops him overboard. The splash is small. The silence afterward is immense. You help scrub the deck with vinegar and seawater, pretending it helps. A curious fact, many sailors considered lemon juice a miracle cure. The British Navy would make citrus a standard ration much later, but early voyages sometimes discovered the cure by accident when someone secretly smuggled in a few barrels of limes. You do not have limes. You have hardtack, dried fish, and quiet despair. You get used to the taste of mold. Everything is damp. Even your skin feels wet. You have sores on your legs. One has begun to weep. You show it to a shipmate. He nods wisely and gives you a strip of cloth soaked in rum and spit. It burns, but you say thank you. A storm hits. You are below deck when it starts. Then suddenly you are not. Waves toss the ship like a toy. Rain lashes your face. You grip the mast and pray to every god you can remember. Lightning flashes. Someone screams. Sails rip. The boat spins. You think, this is it. This is the end. It is not the end. You wake up the next morning in a puddle. Half the crew is gone, washed overboard or missing. You mend a sail with trembling fingers. You drink from a cracked gourd. You don't speak for 2 days. The wind changes. You sail on. Eventually, you spot land. It looks like a cloud at first, then trees, then people. You want to cry. Instead, you gag up seawater and try to remember how feet walk. You are thin now. You reek of brine. You have lost 3 teeth. Your hair is matted. You no longer flinch when rats walk on you. But you survived. Barely. No one cheers when you disembark. No one shouts. You simply walk forward. Bones groaning. Skin burned by sun and salt. You don't know the language. You don't care. The earth is beneath your feet. And for now, that is enough.
The age of regret, the Industrial Revolution. You wake up to the sound of hammers, not gentle ones, not helpful ones. These are the hammers of industry, loud, hot, relentless, the kind that echoes in your ribs and fills your ears with a constant clang, clang, clang until you forget what silence ever sounded like. The air smells of smoke, soot, and metal that has just lost its temper. You open your eyes to fog, ash, and a faint taste of coal on your tongue. You are now in the Industrial Revolution, and it is disgusting. You don't know much about revolutions, but this one is not about freedom or pretty speeches. It is about work. Endless, suffocating, soul-dissolving work. You are in a city now, a real one, a proper pileup of brick, steel, smokestacks, gears, and men who shout a lot and never smile. Your job? Factory worker. The pay is meager. The hours are all of them. Your shift begins before sunrise and ends after sundown. The factory bell is your god now. When it rings, you move. When it stops, you collapse. The floor is slick with oil and sweat. The walls are damp. The windows, if they exist, are black with soot. The machines never stop. They whine, they groan, and they belch smoke like overfed dragons. And they do not care if your fingers are too slow. You've already lost a fingernail. The man next to you is missing half a hand. No one mentions it. Everyone keeps working. A curious fact, during the 18th and 19th centuries, children as young as 5 worked in textile mills, coal mines, and match factories. You were lucky. You were old enough to have slightly tougher lungs. Slightly. Your job is to feed the loom, or the press, or whatever it is that chews up cotton and spits out thread. You're not sure. You just know you have to keep your hands clear of the fast-moving parts. You don't always succeed. Your palms are blistered. Your back aches from the stoop. You have forgotten what it feels like to walk without a limp. And still the overseer shouts, "Faster!" You nod and move faster. You're not sure why. There is no food on the factory floor, only a bucket of water and a bench for 5 minutes of sitting, if you are lucky. Your lunch is a dry crust of bread that you chew slowly in a back alley. You ate half and saved the other half for hope. You spend your breaks coughing. Everyone does. The air is thick with coal dust. Your mucus is black. Your throat is perpetually raw. The doctor said it was black lung, then laughed as if it were a joke. It was not a joke. You tried breathing through a damp cloth once. It helped for 10 minutes. Then it became a mildewed rag and only made things worse. The noise is constant. You no longer notice it. Your ears ring even when the machines stop. You fall asleep hearing them. You dream of grinding gears. You wake up screaming from your own voice when you think your hand has been caught again. Not this time. You rent a cot in a room with 5 other laborers. The walls are damp. The window is broken. You all share one bucket, and it is not for drinking. The man who sleeps next to you grinds his teeth so loudly it sounds like a bone saw. Someone else is weeping in their sleep. No one says anything. There is nothing to say. Historians marvel at the productivity of the age, the growth, the expansion, the sheer scale of what was built. And yes, the machines were incredible. Steam engines, looms, spinning jennies, miracles of modernity. But what else was incredible? The smell. Coal smoke and sewage, horse manure and body odor, rotting food and factory grease, all mixing into a thick soup that clings to your clothing and follows you home like a loyal plague. You want to leave. You dream of the fields, of silence, of just breathing air that doesn't crunch in your lungs. But you cannot. You need the money because you rent the cot, because you owe for the bread, because your boots have holes, because your sister works in the match factory and her cough has gotten worse. You are not building a better future. You are barely building Tuesday. The street outside is always wet. It is not rain. It just stays wet. People dump their waste out of windows. Rats scurry as if they own the place. You once saw a man collapse in the street, face first into the muck. No one helped him. You didn't help either. You just walked to work. Because if you are late, you lose a day's pay. And if you lose a day's pay, you lose your cot. And if you lose your cot, you are next. You climb the factory stairs again. You nod to the same faces, all gray with soot, all with hollow eyes. No one smiles. No one jokes. There is no time for laughter, only for survival. The machine roars to life. You feed it. You move your hands carefully, and you hope it doesn't notice you are tired. Because the machines do not care if you are a person. They only care if you are useful. Mud and War, World War I.
You are knee-deep in mud and history. A thick, cold, ankle-sucking slurry that drags at your boots every time you try to step. It is not just wet, it is angry. The kind of mud that knows what it is doing. You are in a trench, somewhere in France or Belgium. Or maybe just an unnamed scar dug into the earth in a time no one will ever forget, but everyone wants to forget. You are now in World War I, and it is perfect misery. Around you are rats the size of house cats. Above you is a gray sky that never truly brightens. Beneath you are layers of wet clothing, decomposing rations, and yes, the occasional human bone. The smell is indescribable, a mix of mold, sweat, gunpowder, urine, and fear. You breathe through your mouth, but it is worse. You try your nose, that is worse too. There is no winning here, only breathing, only enduring. Your uniform is soaked, your fingers are numb, you haven't changed your socks in a week, and your feet are wrong, swollen, pale, tender like bruised fruit. You have trench foot, my friend. A curious fact, trench foot could begin after just 24 hours in wet boots. The solution? Dry socks. The problem? You haven't seen anything dry in days. You try to wiggle your toes, they do not respond. You pretend you are fine. Someone behind you is singing softly, off-key, something about home. You try not to listen. Home feels impossibly far away. You can't remember what it smelled like. Probably not mud. A sergeant barks an order. You grab your gear, too heavy, too wet, and pull yourself up onto the fire step. Your fingers barely grip the rifle. You haven't fired it in days, or maybe hours. Time here is elastic, stretching, tearing, and looping like the wire coils that fringe no man's land ahead. The ground shakes. Artillery, distant, then closer. You flinch, but you don't duck. No one ducks anymore. You just flinch and hope your name isn't written on that particular shell. Historians still debate the daily routines in the trenches, how often soldiers rotated, whether officers suffered less, if anyone actually slept. You know the truth. You sleep in shallow shifts, waking at every cough, rat squeak, or whispered curse. You once saw a man stand up too quickly and vanish in a spray of mud and gone. No scream, just gone. You didn't ask his name. You didn't want to know. Food comes in tins, cold, slimy, sometimes tainted. You eat it anyway. No flavor, just texture, and not the good kind. Water comes in canteens that taste of rust. You drink it slowly, hoping it doesn't turn your stomach again. The worst part is the waiting. Waiting for orders, waiting for dawn, waiting for the piercing whistle that means over the top. You don't want to go. No one does. But when that whistle blows, you move, or someone moves you. You've done it before. You remember the last time, clambering over the trench edge, knees shaking, heart trying to break out of your chest, running into the mist and the wire and the noise. You didn't fire your rifle. You just ran, stumbled, crawled, tried not to die. You made it back. Most didn't. You don't talk about it. A letter from home came last week, smudged with dirt. You reread it every night. The words are starting to fade, though. Someone misses you. You're not sure you miss them back. It's hard to feel anything through this fog. You have learned to stop hoping. Hope is dangerous. Hope makes you think about the future. And in this place, that's a luxury. You think only in hours, in meals, in inches of dry earth, and in socks. Always socks. The man next to you is snoring. He has a photograph pinned inside his greatcoat. You glanced at it once, Blurry, smiling people. Probably family. Probably gone now. You never asked. He never offered. You hear a rat. You swat at it. It doesn't care. Nothing here cares. Not the weather, not the officers, not the universe. You get mail sometimes, chocolate sometimes, usually just paper. You trade it for cigarettes or gloves or half a tin of beans. Everything here is a trade, the economy of survival. A dry match is gold. A spare bootlace is currency. A moment of silence is priceless. An officer walks past, doesn't speak, just surveys the line, looking for weakness. You keep your head low. You don't make eye contact. You don't volunteer. You never volunteer. Later, a shell hits closer. The ground shakes. Your helmet rattles. Someone screams. Another shouts back. Then silence again. You huddle deeper into the trench. The world feels like it's shaking. You close your eyes for just a moment. You dream of grass, of silence, of air that doesn't smell of blood. Then you wake up with mud in your mouth and something buzzing too close to your ear. You swat at it and whisper, "I'm still here." And that is somehow a victory.
The souvenirs of evolution, the modern world. You are standing in a supermarket. Fluorescent lights hum above you. The floor is polished. The air smells of refrigeration and artificially ripened fruit. A child is faintly crying in aisle 7, and someone nearby is angrily whispering into a Bluetooth earpiece. Somewhere above, a quiet, forgettable pop song is playing. You are no longer sure what century it is. You look at your hands. They are clean, soft even. Your nails are clipped. Your fingertips are not stained with blood, mud, or ash. You reach for a plastic-wrapped container of strawberries. In winter, in a country where they don't even grow. You stare at it for a long time. Then you laugh, because this is the future. But somehow, you are still the same ancient thing inside. You drift through the aisles in a daze. You are surrounded by food, endless food, shelves stacked with things you cannot even name, labels covered with smiling cows, cartoon bees, and promises like low carb or gut friendly. You don't know what a probiotic is, but you assume it's expensive. There are no predators here, no rain, no hyenas, no saber-toothed cats lurking behind the bananas. And yet, you feel uneasy. You reach for a loaf of bread, and the plastic crinkles under your fingers. It smells faintly of nothing. You put it back. Your body is different now. Your brain has grown. You have mapped the stars, split the atom, walked on the moon. But the ancient wiring is still there, the old code, the fight or flight reflex that doesn't know what to do when the threat is not a lion, but a slowly filling inbox, or the buzz of a notification at 2 a.m. Historians still debate whether modern stress is better or worse than ancestral fear. But you know one thing for certain: your heart doesn't feel the difference. It beats the same, fast, heavy, as if it is 2 million years ago and something is about to pounce. You move through the aisles the way you once moved through the woods, carefully scanning, assessing. The gathering instinct has not left you. It has simply been redirected. You collect things now: bottles, chargers, bonus points. Your cache is no longer meat and berries. It's apps, passwords, emergency snacks. You find yourself scrutinizing other people's carts. You judge. You compare. You wonder if your choices are better or worse or more evolved. A woman in front of you is stocking up on bottled water. Her shoes are clean. Her teeth are straight. But the look in her eyes, you recognize it. It's the look of someone who has survived something uncertain, something shaky, something that woke up the old fear again. You wonder if she feels it too. This strange ache for something real, for bark between the teeth, for the solid certainty of climbing a tree to escape a predator, for the days when bad meant you might die before sundown, not that you missed a deadline. You leave the strawberries. You walk out to the parking lot. The sun is bright, but filtered by haze. Cars are lined up along the roads like grazing metal beasts. No mud, no bones, no circling vultures, but you still squint at the sky as if it might suddenly shift, as if the climate is still not done deciding what it wants to do. You sit on a bench and breathe, and it is here you realize the strangest thing of all. Despite the comfort, the light, the options, the fact that you haven't been chased by a predator in years, you are still tired. Not physically, not quite, but deep inside, bone-tired, an ancient weariness, as if a part of you is still stuck in the trees, or the trench, or the salt spray. You survived it all, but your body remembers. It's evolution's cruel trick. It equips you for one world, and then drops you into another. You are built for famine, yet surrounded by abundance. Trained for danger, yet drowning in minor inconveniences. You have fire, you have soap, you have running water. And yet your brain hoards snacks, flinches at loud noises, and distrusts silence. Because you were never meant for this world. Not entirely. You are just borrowing it and doing your best, one ancient heartbeat at a time. The echo of the ancient heart. So now, as the journey fades behind you and the long road through human history settles into silence, let us pause. Let us breathe. You have scrambled through the muck of ancient forests, the grit of Bronze Age streets, the soot of industrial cities, and the static hum of the modern world. You have felt the fear of predators, the sting of hunger, the ache of cold nights without fire. You have toiled in the dark, endured in silence, watching the world transform around you again and again. And through it all, you survived. You, the old creature in the new skin, are still scanning, still hoarding, still flinching under the fluorescent lights, not because you are cold, but because something deep inside remembers the wind on bare skin and the snap of a branch at night. But now, you can rest. The world outside may still be loud, your thoughts may still be restless, but in this moment, you have earned some peace. Let the muscles in your face soften. Let your breathing slow. Let the images drift away. Stone tools, smoky huts, crowded ships, muddy trenches, it all floats gently into the mist. You are here now, warm, safe, quiet. Let that ancient heart beat softly in your chest. It has done enough work. And you, my friend, you are still human, still trying, still here. Good night.